And in case you're new here, my name is Kat, and this is Katie Reads Books. I post bookish content once or twice a week and host read-ins and write-ins on alternating Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we've got an interview with R.L. Davennor, author of Lyres, Legends, and Lullabies. I wanted to talk with her a little bit about her work as an author and a composer of music and how those two things work together to create her art. And she's also being published in a new anthology coming later this month. First question that I always like to ask is, do you have any pets?
Yes, I have quite a few. I don't know if you want me to go through a short list. I have one cat, I have 4 rabbits, I have a tortoise, 2 snakes, and a couple fish, and 2 frogs. And I have lots of fosters that come in and out.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what tell me about the rabbits. I don't usually run into people who have rabbits.
Yeah, there's 4. There's 2 pairs of them, so male-female pair and a male-female pair. The 2 actually live in my room, which is this room, and then 2 of them live upstairs. So.
Aww. Are they sweet?
Yeah, yeah, they're all different, but for the most part, the females don't generally like a whole lot of like physical attention. The males have a really nice, but yeah.
That's interesting.
But, yeah.
Okay, so then before we jump into talking about your books, I thought it would be good to cover your musical background. You play instruments, and what inspired you to get into music?
Well, through school, the only thing that I wasn't really bad at things. I just wasn't like excellent at anything. And then when I hit 5th grade and they make you choose either band or choir, that just clicked. I wish I could have done both, but they happened at the same time, so you had to pick one or the other.
Right.
But yeah, I picked band, and I wish I could remember which piece played, but they like played all the instruments for us, and my main instrument is oboe, and nobody like plays oboe. Like if you play oboe, that's like all you play. So like our band directors, they played a bunch of instruments, but they didn't play oboe.
Okay.
So they played us a recording of what it was, and I don't know, just something clicked in my brain, and I was like, I want to play that.
That's
and yeah, I went from there. It was an instrument too that they required you to have private lessons if you to play that. So I jumped into private lessons, and yeah, I loved it. I ate it up. I was up to like in high school. By the time I graduated, I was taking like 2 hours of lessons a week, which normally it's just like half an hour once a week.
I was gonna say that's some pretty intense study.
Yeah, and I knew by like the end of high school that I wanted to do it. I had started like doing competitions, and I was like winning like district like auditions and things, and I was doing like after school, like my high school didn't have an orchestra, so I was playing with an orchestra on Monday nights, and I played with another band on Tuesday nights, so like it was just all I did, and I loved it and I was good at it, so it just kind of made sense. And I went to school for oboe performance. I have a master's, but I did both a bachelor's and a master's in performance. So yeah, just kind of focused on my instrument, but also like playing in ensembles and doing theory and everything. And I had an interest in composing in school, but I just had there wasn't a whole lot of time to kind of focus on that. And I actually was discouraged by a few people to pursue that, which was sad. But I was just like, at the time, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm just not good at it. It's fine.
Do you know why they discouraged you from doing it?
What the stuff that I like to compose is like kind of like more poppy. It's not pop. Still like it's new age music, but like in music school they want you to do like the avant-garde like stuff, and that's just not like what I was
quite in that mold.
Yeah, they kind of look down on that. So
that's a shame.
Yeah, it's stupid, and it's like stupid gatekeeping stuff, but yeah, I didn't really get into composing until after I was out of school, and then I kind of just went full steam ahead with that. I'm like kind of a self-taught composer, but like obviously I draw like heavily on my background. I read music, I can write it. I have a good knowledge about like the orchestra and like how that works because of my experience. But yeah, I at this point, I don't know how many pieces total, but this has all been, there's like a few that I did before I was out of school, like maybe like 3 or 4, but most of them have been since I was out. So that was like in 2019 is when I was finally out of school. So it's really only been a little bit over a year, and I'm probably up to like 50 plus at least pieces.
It's pretty impressive.
Thanks.
How many instruments do you play, or do you pretty much stick to the oboe?
So oboe is definitely the main one. Oboe has like a sister instrument. It's called the English horn, which is basically like an alto oboe. If you play oboe, you can play English horn. Not everybody does, but it's the same thing, kind of. It's got a deeper sound, and it's very, very pretty. But yeah, I play those two as like my main. I had to learn piano for
I'm in a meeting.
School. I wouldn't necessarily call myself super proficient at it,
no,
but
right
I can play it. I wish that I had a keyboard and stuff at home. I don't. I used to go to. I still live local to the school that I graduated with my master's from, so I could go there and play around. But obviously, due to the world right now, that's not really an option. Right. But yeah, I play piano. I've started picking up guitar. Messing around with it again lately, just because this is handy. I have a few ocarinas that I mess with. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I have a few like random percussion instruments too, because in pieces that I compose, if I can record an instrument live, I prefer to do that versus virtual instruments. But I do have really pretty decent virtual instruments as well.
Very cool. Very cool. So, do you want to talk about what part of the world you're from? Some people are like, I don't really want to.
Not super specifics, but yeah, I'm on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I've lived on the East Coast my whole life, so
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Station to one geographical area, and I've been other places, but I've never lived anywhere else. So
yeah. So then, how different and how similar is writing music as opposed to writing stories?
For me, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, and I know that's probably not how most people's brains work, but it's how mine works. Like, one inspires the other, and it's kind of a give and take. It's not, I call them equal, but like they're not always equal, if that makes sense. Like in a given day, like there are days when I just want to do nothing but write, and there are days when I want to do nothing but compose. Most of the time, a little bit of both. But yeah, they're definitely inspired by the other. I've like written themes for a lot of my characters that are like purely instrumental. I've also like taken like actual lyrics that I've written and turned those into songs. So that's actually what Lyres, Legends, and Lullabies is. It's just a compilation of, it's mostly the music. So they're printed scores for people who do read music and want the full scores of that. But it also does pair if they're paired with like a scene in like a particular work of mine, that's also included in that. So it's like the writing alongside the music, and you're meant to like read as you listen, or like read and then or whatever you like to do. So it's a little bit of a unique concept, but it kind of is the bridge, because I will be publishing more written works, and I will just have like music things as well, but it's kind of the compilation of both.
Right. So. Do you want to hold up?
Sure.
Yeah, so Lyres, Legends, and Lullabies, right? And it's available on Amazon.
Yeah, it's published through Ingram Spark, so it's actually a lot of places.
Okay, so it's wide.
Target. Yeah, it's wide. Okay. So definitely Amazon. You can find it at any Amazon store. But yeah, I found it at like Target, Book Depository. I forget what all the other big ones are, but I'm sure it's there. It's only in paperback, however, and I know that that's sad, including for me, who I do read a lot of ebooks. But because it is printed scores, this just wasn't going to translate well to an ebook. Yeah. So that's the reason why it is physical format only, and it's a little bit bigger. It's 8.5 by 11 is the trim size.
It's about the size of like a music book.
Yeah, because it was to like, if people, there's some like even piano works and stuff in here, so it's meant to like sit and people will read it. But but yes, so
then does that come with, I guess probably like a digital format for the music so that you can listen and read?
there are actually links. Yeah,
Okay.
there are links in the book, and I believe there are some places where, like in the description, the online description, you can find like the links there to the playlist.
Okay.
The full playlist is SoundCloud, and SoundCloud's free even if you don't have an account to listen to. So there's a full Lyres, Legends, and Lullabies playlist on SoundCloud, and it's in the order that the scores are in the collection. So if you wanted to just hit play, you could listen to it all straight through if you wanted to. It's about 2 hours of music in this. So
very cool. And is that short stories or is it all one long story?
it's not a cohesive story. No,
Okay.
it's and I wouldn't even necessarily call them short stories. I kind of would just call them excerpts.
Okay.
Because they're taken from some of the stuff is taken from novels that I have in progress right now. So it'll be just like they're definitely like, if I put an excerpt in there, not every piece has an excerpt, but if there's one in there, like you can read it and get a pretty decent understanding of, you know, what's happening. It's not like a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
But yeah.
So then how do you how do you go about putting certain scenes or excerpts with a particular kind of music? Like how does that work in your head?
So it depends kind of how it came to be. Sometimes I start with a scene and then as the scene progresses, like I can envision a song or something happening during the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes the scene was always intended to have something and then I'll compose something to go with it. Other times I will be composing a piece and I'll be actually imagining what could be happening during the piece. So it's completely dependent on the individual piece. So and sometimes it just like elicits a mood is not even necessarily of a scene or anything, but yeah, it just depends on the idea, I guess.
Okay. So then oh, I had another question and I've just completely lost it. So then I'll pull up the picture of the newest anthology that you're getting ready to be a part of, right? If you want to give us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So if you know anything about my kind of, I guess, author brand, I guess if you want to call it, that sounds so fancy, but yeah, dragons are kind of a big part of that identity. So my longest work that I have in progress that will be wrapping up within these next couple of months is it's called Bloodlust. It is a dark fantasy / epic fantasy novel that is very, very heavily like dragon focused. So that has been kind of my main project for quite some time. So when I saw the cover for this and like the anthology call for this, I just knew I had to do something for it. So the original call was it was fairy tale retellings, but the retelling had to include a dragon as a major part of the plot. So they didn't care how you did it. They didn't say it had to be the villain or it had to be the hero or anything. It just had to be a major part of the plot, and they didn't care what fairy tale you did either. So I figured that people were already obviously going to be doing, you know, probably the popular ones like, you know, Beauty and the Beast and Snow White and that sort of thing. And not that there's anything wrong with those, but I did want to maybe do something a little bit different. So for mine, I don't know why I settled on this, maybe just because I guess of the music, but I chose Swan Lake to retell. It was more of an uncommon fairy tale. I did play around before I like even started writing the concept to see how familiar it was to people. It's hit or miss. There are some people who just think of the Swan Princess movie.
Yeah.
An animated. I love that movie, and I actually rewatched it for like research before I started writing. But yeah, some people think that. But Swan Lake is it is a fairy tale. It's very like kind of unclear whether like what the origins of that were from, but essentially it's most well known as a ballet written by Tchaikovsky, and Tchaikovsky went off of he actually mashed up, I believe, several German fairy tales to write the ballet, the plot for his ballet, and he wrote the music for it. That's very, very well known. It's one of the most famous ballets performed, I think, next to Nutcracker. It's probably, it was also Tchaikovsky, but When you think ballet, so many people think Swan Lake. But yeah, I chose to retell that one. I adore the music. Tchaikovsky's obviously one of my favorite composers. I'm really attracted to like late romantic era composers, and Tchaikovsky definitely fits that bill. But yeah, the original story, just very too long, didn't read. It's not a long ballet, I don't think. I think it might be around 2 hours or so, but it's 4 acts. But essentially, there's three main players in the original ballet. So there is Odette, who is the swan. She is, I don't think she's a princess in the original. The animated movie took a lot of liberty with that too. So that's definitely telling of sorts. Yeah, Odette is, she's a maiden who is cursed to, and I think I did this backwards in my tale, so now I forget. I think she turns into a human at night, and she's a swan by day.
Okay.
So she's cursed. She was cursed by the sorcerer Rothbart, who in the ballet is just, he's just a pure evil guy. You don't really know why he cursed her or anything. He's just a sorcerer that cursed her. And then there's Prince Siegfried.
Okay.
The ballet opens with him. We open and he is, it's his birthday, and his mother gifts him with a crossbow, and she tells him that he has to get married soon. And he, being the dashing, young, adventure-loving prince that he is, he's like, oh, marriage can wait. And so he sets off with his new crossbow and with his men, and he's hunting swans in the woods. And he comes across Odette, but as he's about to shoot her, he sees her turn into a swan, or sorry, a human.
Mm-hmm.
And he falls in love and then vows to save her, and the ballet is about them defeating Rothbart. It depends. I think the original, there's actually several endings that the ballet can take in that form. So I think the original ending is tragic. So,
most of that late romantic stuff is.
So essentially, like, I guess spoiler alert, but yeah, Rothbart tricks Prince Siegfried because Odette's curse can only be broken if a man vows to love her and only her. So there's a ball that Rothbart throws, and Odette shows up at it, but it's not Odette, it's Odile, who is a woman who has been transformed to look exactly like Odette, and she's dressed in black, so that's what the Black Swan is. Yeah, a lot of people think of the Black Swan movie too, which actually is a pretty good adaptation of that as well. But yeah, so Siegfried dances with the Black Swan, but completely unknowing that he's betraying Odette by doing so. Odette then dies because he's betrayed her. She flies off to die. They all go to the lake together, and Prince Siegfried, I think in the original, just chooses to kill himself rather than be without her because he betrayed her. So they die. In other versions, in like the Swan Princess movie, the prince does defeat Rothbart, and then they all live happily. Odette's no longer cursed, but yeah, that's the original tale. Mine, I won't spoil, I guess, but the dragon is Odette. So I don't often write in first person. I did write in first person for this. It just felt, for whatever reason, fitting. But it's first person from Odette's point of view. And Odette is not the character that is helpless and lacking agency that she is in the original. Because obviously she was mostly just kind of there. She doesn't really do a whole lot in the original.
Kind of like Sleeping Beauty, where she has like so little.
Yes. So she, in my version, she is a trained assassin who works for Rothbart. So she is cursed like she is in the original Swan Lake, but instead of turning into a swan, she turns into a dragon. And I believe I flipped the like day and night thing. So she is a dragon at night and a human by day. So what she does for Rothbart really wants to crown himself king of this realm. So he's having her go around and assassinate all the princes of the realm so that he can crown himself king. And so what Odette does is she lures men. At sunset, she walks out into the forest and lures men out there as a woman, and then she turns into a dragon and devours them.
Excellent. I like it. Sold.
Yeah. Siegfried is her last target. Once she, eliminates Siegfried, then Rothbart can crown himself king, and he will undo Odette's curse. But he has only agreed to undo Odette's curse if she will then marry him.
Ah.
So he's still trapped even if she wins. Not wins, I guess, succeeds.
Yeah.
But so that's the main premise. So Odette is faced with killing this prince, and yeah.
Very cool. And then this anthology is set to release
November 30th.
November 30th. Very cool. So then, do you want to talk a little bit about the novel in progress that you have going?
Sure. I have little. I haven't yet revealed the cover yet. This is not the cover.
Okay.
But some character art that I have. I think this is the biggest piece that I have, but it's more clear, I think, on this bookmark, or maybe not.
Oh, pretty.
But yeah. So Bloodlust. Okay. Bloodlust is the title. And yeah, as much as I would love to make this the cover, obviously this kind of looks a little vampire-ish, but
I was going to ask if it had anything to do with vampires.
Yeah, no. No vampires, sadly. But yes, that is blood's a big part of it, obviously. So yeah, essentially this is a world where there are humans and there are dragons, and the races are at war. They live on a continent that is really not big enough to fit the both of them, especially with the growing human population. The dragons were there first, but as the humans are being pretty terrible and essentially wiping the dragons out.
Sounds legit.
Yeah. So the dragons are sentient. They have their own customs and culture and things like that. Essentially, it was becoming clear, this is centuries before the novel starts, but that they needed to find a solution or the dragons were going to be wiped out. So the dragons actually offered their magic to a few humans. And the humans could then, once they did that, they actually shared their blood with the humans. And once that happened, the humans could understand their language, and they were able to serve as essentially like interpreters. Because prior to that, the humans and the dragons could not communicate with each other, but they could after the dragons had shared a little bit of their magic. So they did that, and that was the first enchanters, essentially. So the enchanters are the kind of the bridge between the humans and the dragons, except that's also gone very, very wrong. So the enchanters have lost most of the power that they used to hold, and everything is in shambles, and there's been lots of recent betrayals. So that's a little bit about the premise. And the art was of the main character, Rebecca. She is descended from the enchanters, but because as of this point, they've obviously had lots of children, and the magic is passed on. It's hereditary.
Was that intentional on the part of the dragons, or is that maybe part of the story that we're not
I don't think the dragons, they didn't know what they were even doing. It was just a last-ditch effort, desperate attempt to, so they didn't really know what it intended, and no, I don't think that they would have done it. Well, I don't know, because they didn't really have a choice, but high-level questions. But,
gotcha. Overthinking it. Sorry.
Enchanters, for her knowledge, the enchanters have like been wiped out. She doesn't know that they're still around, that they still exist. She's what's known as a dragon touched, so she has magic, and it's something that people can physically see. You have normal humans, and she's actually, I guess, part dragon because she's got the dragon blood in her. And if you are dragon touched and you have magic, your eyes actually glow.
Oh, cool.
So it's something that people can see, and it's something that is frowned upon because obviously relations with the dragons aren't good. So they've actually been outcasted from the rest of society. So she's one of these outcasts, even though they do have magic. There are just so many more just regular humans, so there's just not a whole lot that they can do, even though they have magic. So yeah, she's an outcast, and she must figure out kind of her place. Her story opens, she has she's been betrothed to a lord, even despite her status, which is not a good one, and she has no idea why. So she's like as terrified as this about everybody else. No idea why he picked her, and she goes to his castle, and it soon becomes apparent what he wants from her, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, that could go a lot of ways, huh?
Yeah.
So then, would you call it a coming-of-age story, or is it more...
No, she's 18 when the story starts.
Okay.
So, no, I would definitely consider it adults. I guess it might kind of a little bit focus on a little bit of coming-of-age themes, but it gets pretty dark pretty fast.
So it is adult fantasy, then?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said that you're kind of going to be pushing for that to be. Are you drafting that now, or?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
in the very final stages of drafting, and it's going to my editor pretty much as soon as I get it all wrapped up and finished. It's very, very close.
Okay. So
So
maybe
it's,
sometime next year.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, definitely sometime next year. I'm pushing hopefully for like the first half of next year.
That would be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then, what are some of your favorite stories about dragons?
Well, Bloodlust is kind of like my passion project. It's been in my head in various forms. Obviously, it's changed quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The level of adult themes added, but um, it actually started when I was around 12 years old. They're all the way upstairs where I would go grab them, but I haven't been. I have like stacks of little notebooks that I would fill up with stories, and actually, I cannot draw to save my life, but I have dragon drawings. But essentially, that kind of was born, and this is such a weird mashup, but I swear to God, it's what it was inspired from. So Aragon, so like the inheritance cycle,
Yeah.
definitely that drew a ton of inspiration from that. So like the whole dragon riders, and the dragons can communicate telepathically with certain humans, so that was kind of pulled from that as well. And then warrior cats.
Okay.
So I love warrior cats. Also, and so there are again, it's tacked to the wall, or I would go get it, but I have a map. But essentially, there are 4 different types of dragons, and it depends. They're all like adapted to a certain biome that they live on in the continent. They essentially more or less live in clans. So they used to be dragon clans. They're not anymore. They're just types of dragons based on where they live and kind of how they have to adapt to their environment. But
right.
yes, so. Aragon and Warrior Cats, written by a 12-year-old, now evolved into an adult mindset with adult themes, and yeah.
That should prove to be a very original take on dragons, I would think.
Yeah, now I would call it, definitely, like when I'm going to compare it to comp titles, I would call it like a mashup of Game of Thrones and Aragon, for sure.
Okay, all right.
So
then where would people find you online? What platforms are you most active on?
I am a lot of places. I'm definitely the most active on Facebook. That's my home base. So definitely have a Facebook page. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. I have a website.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Also have a Patreon, and then for like music stuff, I've got SoundCloud and YouTube.
So, and you're RL Davennor on all of those?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. So if you just take away the dots, it just would be at RL Davennor or
Gotcha.
rldavennor.com.
Very cool. I did notice that you have some compositions on your YouTube channel while I was sleuthing on you. Are any of those for the fairy tale retelling that is in the anthology? Are you planning to do any music for that, or is it not really transpired?
So I actually might do a little bit of music for that. I'm not, I don't have anything for it yet. I actually will be releasing the story. So my story is called Dragon Lake. I will be releasing that as its own thing as an ebook next year.
Okay.
Wait a few months, it'll be in the anthology first, but per my contract, I'm allowed to publish it elsewhere. So I will be publishing it myself. It will be an ebook. I have a pretty fancy cover. I can't wait to unveil for it. But yeah, so that will be coming out soon as well. And I actually was thinking of doing some kind of a composition for it. That, or the most famous kind of, I guess, theme from Swan Lake as actually an oboe solo. So
okay.
I'm recording myself playing that. So yeah, I've definitely thought about it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Will Bloodlust have any musical tie-ins?
Bloodlust has a ton.
Yay.
Yeah, for sure. There's actually quite a few in Lyres, Legends, and Lullabies. There will be more. So this will not be my only score collection. I actually have 2 more planned already.
Very nice.
The second will be releasing next year. I have unveiled the title. I have not yet revealed the cover, but the second will be Sirens, Songbirds, and Serenades.
Okay.
And that is going to have more. But yeah, Bloodlust, even from chapter 1, there's songs, there's music, there's themes. Not every chapter, but eventually when I do plan to publish, the ebook will have hyperlinks. If there is a song in that chapter, it'll have a hyperlink to the song in that chapter. So
very neat.
Yes.
Very cool. And then you have a newsletter also, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. I need to get better at doing it, but yes, I do have a newsletter.
You have a baby newsletter right
now. Yeah, you can find the sign up if you go to my website. On the contact page, there is a sign up. So, and the contact page is very easy to find. It's up at the top. So.
Okay, and your website is
rldavennor.com.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell so that you are notified every time I post a new video and when I go live on Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the very next video. Bye.